We are now live. Welcome to Talakayan 3K Deadline.
Diyan, walang audio dyan. Diyan. All right. So, we're still having some birth pains with our national anthem, but I hope you understand, guys. Anyway, we'll go on with our invocation. So, we thank Lord God. We thank you that you promise to be with us always. Thank you that your presence with us right now. Today, we give you our hearts, our minds, and our lives. Come speak your words of life into our beings. We pray that you would deepen our comprehension, broaden our thinking, and transform our understanding of what we are about to discuss. For you are our wise counselor, our perfect teacher, and our faithful friend. Thank you, Lord. Amen. Okay, so welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Uh, we are still expecting the other panelists from the private sector, but we have the key people here with us right now in the person of Attorney Pinky de los Santos, who's sitting for the Philippine Ports Authority, and of course we have Ma'am Shoni, who's on the back, will be back up, and again, magandang umaga, magandang tanghali, magandang hapon, magandang gabi sa inyong lahat mga Pilipino, saan man kayong panig na mundong ito, because Talakayan 3K Online is seen and heard all over through Facebook and YouTube and www.talakayan3k.live. So our audiences from the Facebook and the YouTube channels can ask their questions, and Jan will take it from there. Then we'll pick it up. Then please address your question to whoever panelists you'll have. We're expecting from the Port Users Confederation, from the Confederations of Truckers Association of the Philippines, because they are the ones directly affected by whatever the goings on at the port. So, but nevertheless, thank you, Ma'am Shoni, Ma'am Pinky, for your time. So, just a brief backgrounder of Talakayan 3K Online. Talakayan 3K Online was envisioned by John and my partner, John, who's an expert in IT. We wanted to provide a platform that will discuss issues objectively and constructively. These are issues that will have impact on the economy and the people's lives. So, for this particular topic, the shipping industry is such a crucial issue because remember, the Philippines is an import dependent country. While the trade deficit lessened in 2020, recently in 2020, but we still had imports, a total imports of $17.97 billion. So, and the bulk of the shipment are shipped through sea freight. So again, the tremendous impact of the rates of the shipping industry will have on Filipino consumers is tremendous. So again, can we start with the opening statement of Attorney Pinky de los Santos on this regard? Ma'am, can you please enlighten us on what the Philippine Ports Authority is doing, especially amid this pandemic, amidst this new trend, and what are its biggest challenges under the new normal, ma'am? John.
She's muted. She's muted.
Sorry.
Okay.
Sorry for that. Good morning, Chito. Good morning, everyone. One of the, in my personal view, is that one of the major challenges for PPA and any port authority for that matter during the pandemic is how to keep the ports open and operational, especially during the ECQ where there were a lot of constraints like in the movement of workers in the port
Mm-hmm.
and also the employees we have to consider the risk to their health. So it was really a challenge to keep the ports open during that period. Um, and um, and as you will know, ports or any government office for that matter usually work within the legal framework. So meaning
Mm-hmm.
we have rules or regulations or issuances in place, and our actions, our decisions are usually based on these regulations. So the
Mm-hmm.
existing regulations are in place at the time of when the pandemic broke out sometime in March. These are designed to meet existing requirements under normal conditions.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the management, it's led by our GM Santiago, and of course the board. They have to act swiftly by coming up with new regulations, new policies that would address the requirements of the existing condition. So we were so PPA and management, PPA management has to be flexible, has
Mm-hmm.
to be decisive and ready to revise the existing PPA regulations to meet the requirements, the existing conditions. Like I think for the last 8 months, there were around more than 15 issuances issued because we have to address the requirements
Mm-hmm.
of the month or during the day. One of the major challenges also was the imminent port congestion sometime in April, in view of the
Mm-hmm.
difficulty of truckers to withdraw cargoes inside the port. So
Mm-hmm.
uh, issuances were released by PPA, as well as there was that joint administrative order jointly issued with DTI and BOC
Okay.
and PPA,
Okay.
and the issuances were issued to address the condition, what's this, the problem in congestion. So yeah, just to state that management, PPA management has to issue several policies and issuances to address the requirements of the day or the situations.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. So among these issuances, what is the most significant issuance that would have tremendous impact on consumers, on the Philippine or on every Filipino? Because ultimately, whatever if impact it would have on the shippers, whatever cost implication it would have on the shippers, the importers, it would be a pass on cost.
Yeah. Um, I think I would like to cite which extended the validity of all permits issued by PPA, also,
Mm-hmm.
because that issuance enabled those transacting in the ports like shipping companies, cargo handling
Mm-hmm.
operators, tracking companies to transact in the port without fearing that their permits have expired. So I think it's
Mm-hmm.
one of the major issuances of PPA, and of course when with regard to consumers, that would be the creation of the Shippers Protection Office,
Mhm.
which was issued in relation to the resolution issued by IATF. And the Department of Transportation issued the Department Order 2020-08, which
Yeah,
is the
yes, ma'am.
establishment and creation of the Shippers Protection Office. That was on June 24. And then on August 12, special order was issued creating, which defined or identified the officers, government officers who will constitute the Shippers
Yes, yes,
Protection
ma'am.
Office. And finally, the rules of procedure, because of course, when complaints are filed before the SPO, there should be guidelines or rules of practice should be that should guide both parties. So the rules, SPO rules, was issued on September 3, 2020.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. But has there, excuse me, Ma'am Pinky, has there
Yes.
been a case filed already against any particular shipping line or shipping agents? Has there been a case filed already on this regard?
Yes, as of December 9, we received a total of 21 complaints filed against international shipping lines, one complaint against one shipping line, one against forwarding company, one
Mm-hmm.
against the terminal operator, and we received also requests for meeting from associations.
Mm-hmm. Ma'am, well, without being, how do you call it in legal terms,
Yeah.
without even affecting the legal issue on that,
Yes. Yeah.
can you give us an example? What are these particular complaints
Yes.
cited against shipping
Okay.
international shipping lines, ma'am?
Okay.
Just
So
just a bird's eye view.
yeah, essentially these are the common, no, the common grounds that would be essentially there's they call it illegal charges being collected by shipping lines, such as say container deposits, cleaning fees, terminal handling fees. They also talk about peak season surcharge, container imbalance, and they're saying that the deposits paid by them are not being released, or if ever
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
this is
Yes,
this are released, it took a lot of time for shipping lines to release these container deposits.
but is the shippers protection office taking cognizance of these issues? I mean,
Yes.
as a legal issue, or do you take cognizance of these issues, ma'am?
Yeah. I think I have to clarify because you mentioned earlier before we started that I think for years there has been several requests for government to intervene.
Yes.
I think the most pronounced would be the initiatives taken by the Department of Trade and Industry. There were several meetings called by
Mm-mm-mm.
the DTI as a means to address these complaints from shippers. But during that meeting, so it was recognized that we have some legal constraints. Number one, that there is no particular government agency
Mhm.
identified or mandated, no, and under their charter or the law creating them
Yes, yes,
to
yes,
really to handle maybe to fix the rates of this international shipping line.
yes, yes, ma'am.
Essentially, no law existing under the Philippines authorizing a government agency na okay, you can regulate the charges being collected by these shipping lines. Unlike for domestic shipping,
Yes,
although
yes, yes.
yung rates ng domestic shipping are deregulated, Marina is given the power to intervene, diba? In case
Mm, mm.
there are excessive charges or prejudicial to public interest, for example. So it's there. It's very clear in the Domestic Shipping Act. But for international shipping rates, there is no specific law which grants authority to a particular government agency to fix the rates, no, and to intervene in case the rates are considered as excessive or
Yes,
illegal.
yes,
Yeah. So
yes.
during that meetings, it was discussed, and I think there were measures already filed before Congress. I think two bills, if I'm not mistaken,
Uh-huh.
wherein it identified a certain government agency
Yes.
who will be uh, taking charge, or who will be tasked, to monitor and
Yes. Yes.
to have anyway to give, giving jurisdiction to a particular government agency with regard to the activities and the activities or policies pertaining to international shipping lines. I think there are two measures, and it was
Uh-huh.
also was just discussed the possibility of coming up with an executive order to be signed by the president. While this has been discussed, then came the pandemic, and so it pushed
Okay.
forward it pushed forward the issue, because it became the concerns, or the problems, or the request became more pronounced, because definitely during
Mm.
that period there were charges, those charges really became more pronounced, and
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
yeah, so that led to the creation of the SPO. It
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
taken up in the IATF, one of the IATF meetings, which resulted to the issuance of IATF RESO directing the DOTR to come up with that order, creating the SPO. So essentially, that's the background of
Okay.
these concerns.
So going back to what you said earlier, ma'am, you mentioned that this problem, even prior to the pandemic, has
Mhm.
already been is already being experienced by our shippers,
Mhm.
traders, importers.
Yeah.
So why is it then that the department order is specific that it will only be good for the duration of the pandemic, when in fact
Mhm.
this problem has been with us for so many years?
Yes.
So
Mhm.
why should the department order be specific that its
Yeah.
existence would be only be during the pandemic?
Yeah.
What will happen after the pandemic, ma'am?
So, okay. The department order is very clear. I think the ITF reso also, that is very temporary, because because this could not have been done under normal circumstances. So meaning this is a temporary measure, but I would like to assure that I think in one of the meetings when the rules of procedure was presented, DTI Secretary Mon Lopez has manifested that there's a possibility that this measure might be extended beyond the pandemic. So it will really, depend how um, this measure
Hmm.
whether it will be able to achieve the objectives for its creation.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am. And now we have with us now with the chairman of the Confederation of Truckers Association of the Philippines, Mr. Rupert Bayokot. Sir Rupert, good morning, sir. Good morning.
Yes, good morning.
Oh, are
Good
you
morning, Chito. Good
yeah,
morning.
yeah. Who are you with
Uh,
yan ngayon, Sir Rupert? Who are you with? Is Mary Zapata with you?
I don't know if Mary Zapata is on the line, but ako lang po dito sa setup ngayon.
Yes, yes. Okay. But anyway, Sir Rupert, we started actually nila. Sabi ko naman, nahabol kayo. But we have already initially discussed the concerns on those affected by the shipping industry, by whatever charges or goings on at the port. So, on your end, on the Truckers Confederation, the members of your group, ano yung challenge na nakikita nyo po dito sa pandemic nito under the new normal?
In our side, as tracking, we have so many problems with regards to the uh, importations, because shipping lines is charging us demurrage charges on the container, which we could not return because they could not accommodate the empty containers on the designated container yard.
Okay. So, is there anything you would like to clarify from Attorney Pinky De Los Santos, sir, on that regard? Because Attorney Pinky De Los Santos from PPA is here with us. Probably she can clarify you on your concerns, sir.
Yun nga po, ang problema ng trackers is the shipping lines is charging us demurrage charges on their container, which is intended for return, but the shipping line could not accommodate on the designated container yard. Sometimes they designate us to return to South Harbor and to MICP, but the tabs they could not accommodate also on time. Sometimes it will take 2 days to have our tabs confirmed tabs to bring empty containers inside the port.
Okay. So, Attorney Pinky,
Yeah.
what can you say about the concern of the trackers, ma'am, on that regard, ma'am?
Yeah, I think if it's okay to state that they have already filed a complaint before SPO. Kasi di ba, you mentioned I think you mentioned earlier Tito that you asked why itong SPO yung pwede lang mag-file is yung mga shippers, di ba?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Entities like trackers, for example, yung view namin sa SPO, yung pagsauli kasi, pag-return ng mga empty containers, it's still part of yung original, di ba, yung contract or relationship between shipping and the shipper. So, ang hiningi lang namin sa setup is for them to submit yung parang authorization or special power of attorney na from the shipper na they are filing the complaint for on behalf of the shipper para we can
okay. I
this
understand.
of their complaints.
So it does not necessarily have to be na shippers lang. Anybody can file a complaint in behalf of the shippers or whatever. Ganun ba ang setup mo man?
Kasi part pa siya ng ng contract of carriage, di ba? Until such time na
Okay.
So essentially parang ang third party na si tracker di ba? Because the contract is between the shipping line and the shipper, but along the way kasi ibabalik yung containers. Hindi kasi matapos yung kontrata na mag-complete until such time
Yeah.
yung containers.
Okay.
So we should secure authority from the importer before we could file a complaint with the SPO.
Yes po. I think we will just reiterate na I will check sa record namin. Kasi may complaints officer na po na tawag nito na designate. So inform na lang na yun nga po, dapat may special power of attorney na notarize kayo ni shipper to file a complaint against the shipping line.
Yun nga po, ang problema kasi, yung whatever charges, the shipper charged to us whatever demurrage incurred while the container is in our possession. But the default is we could not return the container because the designated container yard could not accommodate on time. So hindi po namin kasalanan yun na nasa amin yung container. Anytime pwede namin dapat isuli. Yung problema hindi nila ma-accommodate.
Okay. So palagay ko, Attorney Pinky, the real situation is that while they have that initiative to return the empty containers, but for whatever reason, kung ano yung assigned na CY na doon susoli, hindi tinatanggap. It could be a port operator. So, what could be the sanctions on the is it a systems failure, or we don't even know whether it could be deliberate or what? No. So, what could be the sanctions on both ends on that regards, Ma'am Pinky?
We will take up yun po isa sa mga that would be part of the tawag nito yung process na we will kasi parang offshot siya, 'di ba? Hindi mo siya mahiwalay na
Yes.
Wala na yan, hindi na yan rates, 'di ba? Kasi part pa rin siya ng concerns na i-take up natin. And if I may state lang na Diba? After, kasi ang procedure, di ba, mag-file sila ng complaint, we will
yes,
give yung shipping line opportunity to submit yung comments nila, and then we will set parang clarificatory meeting for the parties to meet, diba? Kasi before the SPO, wala kasing government office or body
Yes.
na they can meet. So, yung itong SPO is this is a venue na pwedeng mag-usap yung shipping line at saka yung shipper or yung representative ng shipper. So, and then, pwede silang mag-usap and we will, diba, take note kasi eventually, no, kasi we cannot force then yung shipping lines na, okay, ito, pagbigyan mo, dapat ganitong gagawin mo. Only kasi recommend, after evaluation of the facts, we can recommend to the shipping line, okay, ito dapat ganito, ganito. But assuming hindi nila, they will not act on it, yung task kasi, based on sa department order, at saka sa ATF resolution, yung SPO, we will gather all the facts, the data, and this will be the subject of, we will submit this maybe to the office of the president or to the legislative body, and this can be inputs in further action that can be taken. So yun nga, assuming they will pursue yung pag-draft ng legislative measure, identifying who will take charge of international shipping concerns. Yun, magiging inputs itong lahat na nag-gather natin during this process.
So, going back to the process, ma'am. So, is it possible that the consumers could be considered as a party of interest on this regard, ma'am? Because ultimately, as I was saying earlier, whatever the added cost on these destination charges being collected by international shipping lines are passed on to consumers. Ultimately, it's us, the consumers, who carry the entire burden and with nobody else to pass it on. So, would consumers be considered as a party of interest in this issue? And perhaps, as you were saying, that so long as they would have a collaborative complainant or whatever, or an affidavit from a shipper that they were also affected by these destination charges, they can also be a complainant. Would it be possible, ma'am, in the amended provision of this law?
Very clear, no? Very clear for trackers, no? Because they are the representatives of the shippers. Diba? Very clear. I think there's a question that the shippers can file the complaint, diba, for and behalf of the shippers. But yung talagang tawag nito, yung ordinary consumer, for example, if you take a look at the coverage of the IATF reso and the department order, hindi kasi siya kasi contemplated, and siguro it is on the consideration that dun pa lang sa level ng manufacturer or yung shipper,
yes
already na supposed to be ma-address dun para hindi na ma-pass on sa consumers.
Yes. No. But unfortunately, the reality, ma'am, ganito. Shippers or importers are reluctant to be confrontational with international shipping lines because sometimes they feel of reprisal. Hindi kakargahin load nila eh. They'll not be given priority in the loading. So basically, as if I am an importer, if I am a trader, okay, it doesn't matter. Total added cost ko lang, I'll just pass it on. I mean, I still get what I want to get, and the consumers will carry the burden of it. Diba, ma'am?
At this point kasi it's more of yung, di ba, until such time that we have that specific law really mandating us to, you know, to fix the rates or to to really regulate, di ba, the activities of the Shippers Protection Office. We can only we can appeal to them this should be because I think the SPO can say na can i-recommend na dapat masyadong excessive naman yata yung rates na to, no, di ba?
Yes.
We can have parang recommendation. Yun nga lang, but at the end of the day, si shipping line pa rin yung mag-determine. Yun nga lang, we have to, we are gathering all this data, and this can be inputs dun sa further action na gagawin ng the government will pursue And also, I agree with you na of course we have to balance din kasi no yung although I mentioned mo na parang there's a threat na okay if you're going to regulate baka may threat na this shipping lines will not
Boycott.
be calling
Yes,
us,
yes.
diba? Andun yun. But we really cannot say no whether they will make good that threat. But we also recognize, I think the government also recognized that for major companies kasi importers, I think they have this I mean through the years, diba, that they're
Yes,
able
yes.
to do business with shipping lines. So in a way, they may have some certain arrangements, diba? Because
Yeah,
meron
yeah, yeah.
bargaining, ano ka na, diba? You have that
May-
bargaining power ka na kasi you're doing
Yeah.
big bulk transactions, diba?
Yeah,
And then
yeah, yeah.
continuous yung we're trying to ano lang dito talaga protect yung mga importers or mga shippers na talagang hindi naman talaga sila regular. And
Yes,
what
yes, yes.
SPO can help kasi is we might be able to publish yung mga rates na ito yung common rates na yung parang transparency lang para when they negotiate with shipping lines, at least alam nila na ito usually yung rates na pwede nilang magamit. So one of the tasks of the SPO is not only to meet the parties meet and come up with yung parang amicable solution, but also to assist yung mga shippers na sabi ko, yung mga hindi naman talaga regular shippers na merong data na available na at least na when they enter into contract for yung shipments nila, may at least meron silang kahit papaano data na they're more aware na ito pala pwede palang mapababaan pa ng ganito.
Yeah,
And I would like also pala to cite very relevant din kasi yung ngayon yung department order wherein the DOTR prescribe yung minimum, yung at least minimum saan na yung aking lista is a minimum free time
yeah, free time. Yeah.
Yeah. Hopefully, we will check how the shipping lines will act on this one if this is invoked by the shippers. But it's a big help, especially for yung not really regular shippers if they can avail itong minimum free time period of 8 days for cargoes unloaded by international shipping lines. Because I think for some shippers na or not regularly dealing with shipping lines, I think sa negotiation nila, I think they're given only 5 days. So
Yes, I've heard about that now.
yeah, having this 8-day minimum free time would be a big help. But we have yet to test whether how shipping lines will take this regulation or requirement.
Okay. Oh, Sir Rupert,
Yes.
you are aware, alam mo yung yung extending the free time from 5 days to 8 days. That's
yes.
another department order. So
Yes.
how are
It's,
you how are you doing with the extended time? Are you enjoying it? Kayo sa mga trackers?
we enjoyed it as a broker tracker. The 8 working days, extended 8 working days. It's favorable to us if the documents of the such importation is complete. But if the documents is not submitted to us on time, mostly we cannot avail the 8 days extension.
But it
Because
is the fault of
if-
your sige,
Because if you
Sir
cannot
Rupert.
within 8 days, the shipment is declared by the Bureau of Customs as abandoned. So, if possible, we could file the entry within 8 days. Instead, before it's only 5 days.
Pag nangyayari itong ganito, Sir Rupert, ano yung nagiging course of action nyo? You just have to pay the to carry the sanctions, the penalties, or whatever the cost of it. You just have, tanggap nyo na lang, or wala kayong course of action na iba on that regard?
Hindi, basta pinapalo up namin agad dun sa kliyente namin na this documents is necessary to avail the 8 days allowable. But if they could not submit such documents, ay pag na-declared ng customs is abandoned, we will file lifting for abandonment, but there is expenses in lifting the abandonment procedure.
Okay. Okay. Now, Attorney Pinky,
Yes.
now how about those shipping lines that do not follow the extended time, the free time? What could be I heard that there are some incidents of some shipping lines not following the rule. So what could be the sanctions? The sanctions on this concerned company?
Honestly, kasi if you take a look at the department order, there is no sanction, no, at this point. But as I mentioned earlier, we're gathering all this data, so it has to be reflected on record that a certain shipping company did not comply or did not
Okay.
parties this privilege or this incentive in a way, then we can only appeal. But if they will not comply, we'll have to put that into record and would be subject to further actions by the government later on. But we will be compiling all this
Okay.
actions
So-
or situations.
So what you're saying, ma'am, right now at this point in time, that whenever there are shipping lines that violate or do not follow the extended time, there's nothing we can do on that. Then the shippers can do on that regard, but just for you file a complaint, not necessarily a complaint, but for your information, just to tell you that this company is not following the rule. Is
Yeah.
that so, ma'am?
Yeah, we'll take note because as I mentioned earlier, part of the function of the SPO is to gather all this data, which will be used in future legislation or other action to be made or adopted by the government.
So basically, can you enlighten us, ma'am, on the highlights? Ano talagang highlight nitong department order creating the SPO, Shippers Protection Office? As you're saying, it's part of its mandate is to gather information to guide the legislators in crafting a new law on that regard.
Yeah.
So, but what are the other highlights of the SPO? If, for instance, there are obvious violations, there are obvious abuse by some international shipping lines on the collection of fees.
Yeah, if I may, no, may be allowed dito to just to read, no, para klaro, no. Nakalagay kasi, the creation and establishment of the SPO shall be part of the temporary emergency measure undertaken by the government. It shall serve as a repository of all documents, concerns, and matters to be addressed with respect to the regulation of international and domestic shipping lines, pending resolution of jurisdictional issue between government agencies and the passage of proposed legislations in the matter. All data and information collected by the SPO may be utilized in the implementation of any law, policy, rules, and regulations by the government in view of rationalizing shipping fees and charges and to improve logistics services in the country. So essentially yun ang purpose ng SPO. But I would like to think that we're hopeful that during the clarificatory meeting between the complainant and the complained entity, the shipping lines, hopefully they will be able to address some of the concerns, although temporary in nature. Like for example, they might consider yung, diba, in the computation of the detention.
Yes.
Because they would consider that during the ECQ, it's difficult really for these shippers to pick up the cargoes because there are no available tracking. It's very limited. Supply of tracking services during that period.
So in other words, ma'am, yung mga complaints that have been filed with the SPO right now will just be subject for arbitration. I mean, they do not really expect a resolution on that regard, a legal resolution.
Yes.
It's just for arbitration.
Yes, in a way, we will recommend based on appreciation of the facts presented, and we will recommend it to the SPO, um, to the respondent or the company complained of. But
Okay.
assuming they will not comply with that, we can enforce, okay, na like unlike, diba, if you have that clear legal mandate, na very clear sa law, diba, that you can
Yeah,
suspend,
yeah.
you can we're also appealing because these shipping lines are doing business in the ports, and this is the
Yes.
reason why of all the government agencies, PPA was tasked to head this SPO.
I remember one time in the during the previous administration, I raised this question also in one of the meetings with then task force head undersecretary, I guess, Almendras at the time, that one of the concerns of the government is that ano daw these are international companies that we do not have jurisdiction, but at least can we do something about their local shipping agents because they're registered in the Philippines. They have their DTI, SEC registration, but should the local shipping agents not be liable for whatever violations their shipping companies, their clients are doing?
Yeah, I have to confirm this with Marina, but I recall that when I was with Marina before, Marina accredits shipping agencies or
Yes, ma'am.
um,
Shipping agents.
shipping agents. And in fact, this was taken up also during one of the meetings presided by the DTI. So I think they're also looking at that particular at that option. Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah. I think they have
So,
started revision of that particular circular.
so Attorney Rupert, Sir Rupert, itong mga
Yes.
issues nyo ngayon dito sa PPA, sa port, ni-raise nyo na ba ito even before the pandemic on any government agency like PPA, DOTR, or whatever, or Marina? Ni-raise nyo na
Yeah.
ba itong mga concerns nyo?
We raised already these issues with the DTI. Marami na po kaming kasong na-file sa DTI with regards to detention charges of the containers.
Mm-mm. So why DTI?
May
Ma'am Pinky, why DTI? Is it
Mga
not
consumers,
within the ambit of your jurisdiction of PPA?
as I mentioned earlier, kasi the closest, 'di ba, before would be kasi consumers, 'di ba, complain kaya DTI. And then during the pandemic and after careful study siguro ng IATF, they considered yung may nearest na mandate would be hindi ganun ka-clear, would be yung PPA, because, 'di ba, these shipping lines do business, 'di ba, they transact in our ports, and we will be the closest agency that will have that mandate over them in a way.
Yeah, I understand. Okay, Sir Rupert. Okay, ano yun, sir? Go
actually
on, Sir
dito
Rupert.
almost all our cases with DTI is forwarded to SPO.
Oh,
Yeah. Because we have so many cases filed with the DTI until before the creation of SPO, there's no decision yet. Now there is already SPO. They forwarded
so
it to SPO.
so you were advised, Sir Rupert, ng DTI na pinorward ng complaint nyo sa Shippers Protection Office. You were
Yeah.
advised officially.
Yes.
Ma'am Pinky, do you have that on record, yung mga complaints na ipinafile
Yes, meron kami. And then yung yung latest na action would be yung we requested yung setup to submit yung authorization, special opportunity from the shippers na they are being authorized to to file the complaint.
Oh, okay. So can you still do it, Sir Rupert? I mean, Ma'am Pinky, what's the time frame for them to do that? Does it have a prescription period? Hindi pa nagpe-prescribe yan?
Hindi pa naman kasi yung I'd like to emphasize lang na yung rules naman natin, hindi naman talaga rigid, unlike yun sa ordinary mga quasi-judicial proceedings.
Yeah. I understand.
Because our main purpose really is, di ba, to have this venue for the parties to meet and
Yeah.
agree on something. So they can still fight. Yun nga lang kasi without that SPA, hindi pa namin ma-forward kay shipping line yung complaint kasi nakalagay sa rules kasi, 'di ba, that they should be duly authorized.
Mm-hmm. Now, going back to Sir Rupert, sinabi mo kanina na nagsusoli na nga kayo ng empty containers, and yet some port operators refuse to accept your empty container for whatever reason.
Yes, go ahead. Actually, the procedure in returning our empty containers after delivering the content of the container to the consignee, we automatically ask the shipping line a pre-advice where to return the said containers.
Okay.
Sometimes take us 3 days before the response to our pre-advice request. So when the reply on our pre-advice request, that's the time we will know where to return the container. Sometimes they designate ATI, South Harbor. So we have to make a booking.
Hello.
May connection issue yata
Kay Sir Rupert on the side.
John, nag-lag. Sir
Yeah,
Rupert.
sa side
Anyway,
niya, sa
Ma'am
side
Pinky,
niya,
when
it's restarting.
that's okay.
Yeah.
Ma'am Pinky, going back to that issue na sinasabi niya, clearly, ang sinasabi ko, should it not be possible that the government should be time specific, time sensitive tayo from the time they requested the shipping lines to identify kung saan nila isusoli, because they can always dilly-dally on the time and for all you know it, lumampas na yung 8 days, then they'll be charged, then the Bureau of Customs will already consider their shipment abandoned.
Yeah.
So, but definitely going to the time records, the chronology of time. So, it's not the fault of the trucker or the importer, but rather it's the fault of the shipping lines and whatever is designated depository ng empty containers. So, I think the government should be sensitive on that para entirely ang burden hindi na sa mga trucker, hindi na sa importer. Because the way I look at things right now, the burden is always carried by the importers and the shippers. But again, the shipper, the importer can only say, okay, sinarge mo sa akin yan. I'll make it na pass on cost.
Yeah.
Di ba?
I think you're talking about SLAs or service level agreements.
Yes, Jan. So is it perhaps probably Attorney Pinky, this should, the government should consider the chronology, mga ganon. Kasi again, as I was saying, what if deliberately that was done? Iba ibibigay ko sa iyo kung saan, wag mong tanggapin muna at sasabihin, puno ako eh.
Yeah.
And yet, what can you do? After 8 days, you will be already penalized. The Bureau of Customs will consider your shipment abandoned. You'll be now subject to lifting. Alam mo naman dyan, lifting nako. Para ka nag-alsa ng na ilang tonelada sa bigat.
Chito, I agree. I agree with you. Ang recommendation ko lang, dapat yung tracker should document that because that should be used, diba, to stall or to stop yung running ng period. Diba? Kasi diba, wala na that's already within, outside your control. So,
exactly.
Pag ng SPO, pag nag-compute tayo na, bakit nag-charge ka ng detention eh? Kumbaga itong 4 days na to because walang available na yard to receive yung container. So, i-document lang and that would be presented to the SPO and we will take note of that. Definitely the complaints officer will take note of this intervening, diba? Or what's this? Proof na talagang, they exerted effort and it's no longer their, it's outside your control. Much as they want to comply with the 8-day period, but it's already outside their control. So a suggestion ko lang should be documented.
Fully documented. Yeah. So Attorney Sir Rupert,
Yes.
So you heard Attorney Pinky. The proper procedure is para at least kasi alam yun ang sinasabi ko nga na my fear is deliberately baka bibigyan kayo ng order dito mo dalhin. Pagdating mo doon sa babagsakan mo, sasabihin, puno kami. And yet, after 8 days, i-consider ba nun? Perhaps yung sinasabi ngayon ni Attorney Pinky, you should fully document the transaction chronologically so that when the time to the finger pointing comes, you will know that it's not my fault, it's your fault. Di ba, Ma'am Pinky?
Yeah, and in the computation of, di ba, yung get detention and beverage, you can submit that as evidence. Assuming you would go to court later on, di ba, pwede
Yes.
pwede mo siyang magamit.
And Attorney Pinky, does the PPA have a system that records that where you can verify that indeed there was no available space for the
Yes, yes.
container? Kasi
Validation. To
dapat
validate.
someone in authority ang hindi lang yung sasabihin lang ng shipper or ng agency na walang available. There has to be someone with authority na has this
To check.
data.
Yeah. To validate, ma'am. Tama si Jan. At least we can, the government should be able to validate whether what the claims ng port operator at the shipping industry are real. Na walang available. In fact, it should be the concern with port operator at saka shipping industry to make sure that pag nagbigay sila ng schedule, that there's a slot available for these containers. It's not the problem of the shipper, it's not the problem of the tracker.
Yes. Yeah, I think that it can be. I will have to bring this up to management. And yun nga, as I mentioned earlier, one of the many benefits or the reason for the creation of the SPO is we want to provide information that would be beneficial to shippers. So the factors you mentioned earlier, yung availability ng yard or yung validation, I think that can be covered. So let's have to bring this up to management and to the SPO.
No. So at least you're clear on that, Attorney Sir Rupert. I mean,
Yes, I have
So
I have to file a case by next week because my client is complaining to us why shipping lines is charging them the detention charges. So we check the schedule why it incurred demurrage charges. So by next week, I have a case to be filed with the SPO.
so sir, you have another
Yes.
Load to carry on your shoulder, Ma'am Pinky. But that's how it goes. Because there are a lot of things really that we have to clarify on the SPO. Kasi I understand this problem has been going on for over 2 decades, I believe. So, but since not a single government agency was mandated to regulate or at least supervise or monitor the operation of international shipping lines, instead, they had it their way. They had the best of both worlds, international shipping lines. So, alam mo, Ma'am Pinky, I'm just surprised. Probably, perhaps, our congressman, our legislator should consider the consumers as party of interest to the issues concerning the port.
Yes. Yes, I think it's a good suggestion. I'm sure they will be refiling because nag-lapse na kasi yung deliberation. So I'm sure they will be refiling again this proposed legislative measures. And that recommendation, Chito, I think that can be a valid input then for Congress.
Yeah,
Hindi lang-
because
But I'm sure hindi lang shippers. I'm sure hindi lang shippers doon. Any consumer maybe concerned.
Yes. Ang point lang naman kasi, I would understand the concern probably ng legislators when they crafted the law na baka abusuhin. But complaints naman will be judged on the merits of the issues. It's not going to be shotgun na kalaban lang magpa-file ka. I mean, whatever complaint that is filed against an international shipping line by any consumer for that particular, it will be judged on the merits of its the issues of the complaint. Ganun naman yon.
And definitely
Pero-
there will be safeguards to be put in place in the law to avoid nga yung mga, alam mo yun, abuse or
Yes, I understand. Kasi meron talaga dyan yung mga the mercenary types. You know what I mean? Yung mga, yeah, so, but but as a whole, on a total perspective, wala eh. We consumers are actually hostage by the system of mga at the ports na, because again, walang magagawa kami because we have nowhere else to pass this cost. We are the ultimate user, consumer. But ang brokers, ang importers and traders, they don't lose anything at all. Now remember, ma'am, that going back to statistics, that in 2020 our total imports would likely reach 2.3 million metric tons. And most of the volume of this importation are sent through sea freight. So, can you imagine, ma'am, ano ang impact nito? Tapos, next year, the Philippines may have to hike its rice imports again. Do you remember this is staple food product sa Filipino? We eat it every day. Filipinos eat it every day. And whatever are the charges being collected by international shipping lines, since it's an import, would again be passed on to our poor Filipinos, especially the poor Filipinos. So I think it's about time that all these things should be clarified, enlightened, straightened out, para at least maiwasan na natin ito. And in fact, it's really about time that we consumers should be involved in this issue of shippers, in the shipping industry.
Maybe
That
just to
will take
want to assure then, diba, Chito, the listeners that, you know, government, yung pag-create ng SPO is an indication that the government really is doing something, diba, to
Yes,
address
yes.
concerns ng shippers. At saka, of course, at the end of the day, yung consumers din talaga yung affected. So, yun nga, even temporary siya, but just to show that there's something that the government is doing about the problem.
Well, in fairness to the Duterte government, Ma'am Pinky, it was only his government that acted on the issues at the ports. For over, again, so far as I know, I think for over 2 decades, shipping lines were already charging container. Remember in 2014 when we had the port congestion? Dito yun, they were charging congestion fees and etc. And right now, even without the congestion, they're still collecting congestion fees. So how can it be possible when there's no congestion and some shipping companies still charge port congestion fees? Is it should I say regulatory lapse or whatever, ma'am?
Contract of carriage kasi it's a contract between the shipper and the shipping line. So, usually pag dumating sa atin yan, tapos na yung kontrata. Yun nga, if you don't have the bargaining power really to come up with terms and conditions, diba, na dapat fair. Yan yun ang nangyari. So, we're hoping to really to be of help itong SPO na at least diba yung mga hindi frequent shippers, they will be aware na pwede palang dapat yung free time pala longer than 8 days or may mga companies yung rates ganito. In the meantime, until such time that we have yung talagang law clearly delineating the mandate of government agency or entity with regard to regulation of international shipping lines.
Where are we today, ma'am, in the crafting of the law that will regulate the shipping lines? Where are we right now?
There have been, I think there are 2 bills filed already, but since this were not approved during diba, nung Congress na yon, they have to be refiled again during the next Congress.
So, can you give us a peek of ano yung highlight nitong bill neto? What is the most significant impact of these 2 bills on us consumers? I'm talking as a consumer. So wala pang ano, ma'am, wala kayong ano diyan.
Well, I don't have a copy now, but essentially it identifies a certain government agency who will be exercising jurisdiction over these international shipping lines. May nakalagay doon na wala ngayon kasi sa existing laws natin. I think I'll try to check if I can have a copy.
Yes, ma'am.
And the SPO will be retained, at least the function of the SPO. It may be named something else later on, pero is the key role.
It can be captured, diba? It can be consolidated, diba? Pwede kasing dun sa bill na gagawin na yon, there's already that SPO there, or klaro na talaga na yun mismo, the functions being performed by SPO now will be performed by that government entity or agency.
So practically, ma'am, that puts the role of the SPO right now to gather information in aid of legislation. Is that so?
And perhaps to assist shippers in coming up with information, diba, na yun nga, there's a venue where they're able to bring out, diba, to bring up their complaints and meet with the shipping lines, and maybe in a way they can come up with an agreement that would be fair to both of them.
We
But have
become
you
a
already
single
done-
point of contact
Yeah. Okay, Jan.
for all these complaints. Yeah. So instead of them being pointed to different
Yes.
agencies, then they have just one point of contact.
Yes,
That's
yes.
very good. It's a very good first step by the government, actually.
So have you had any arbitration already on this regard, ma'am?
We have received so far, I think the farthest that the complaint has gone would be, it was received, or the complaint already was received by a shipping line, and I think they requested for an extension to file their comment on that one. So
Okay.
after the submission of the comment, we will bring the parties together for a claratory meeting, and then after that we come up with our evaluation and recommendation.
But that's how far we can get at the moment, considering that there's no law on the whatever sanctions that can be given to violating party.
Yeah.
So ganun lang muna ganun, ma'am.
Yeah.
So Sir Rupert,
Yes, Chito, we have another problems of the trackers. I would like to share with Attorney Pinky our problems.
Yeah.
Another problems of the trackers, which the PPA or the SPO can help, because we incurred expenses which we could not pass on to our client. Yung mga penalty ho sa tabs, because this time, because of the implementation of a single lane at Road 10, most of our members could not arrive on time of their confirmed booking. Karamihan po na nalilate ho sila sa booking because of the traffic at Road 10, because of the implementation of a single lane. So yung mga penalty namin, hindi namin na-charge sa kliyente kasi hindi naman po pwedeng sabihin
na late kami.
hindi naman nila kasalanan yun dahil sa traffic.
Yeah, I
Kasi
understand
pag
that.
kami ng 2 hours, our penalty is 1,600. Pag na-late kami ng 4 hours, more than 4 hours, ang penalty po namin doon is no-show, 3,600, which we could not easily charge to our client because sasabihin naman ng kliyente namin, kasalanan ba namin na traffic kayo?
I understand, but Sir Rupert, is it true na meron din sinisingil ang mga port operator ng early arrival penalties?
Lately na alis na ho yun, yung early arrival penalties. Pero late arrival, may andun pa rin at saka yung no-show. Mabuti nga na naalis na yung early arrival dahil nag-complain nga kami dahil minsan pumupunta kami ng maaga dahil ina-avoid namin na matraffic kami, pipinaltihan pa. Kasi ang problema ngayon dyan sa Road 10, there is the implementation of single lane, and CTAP is asking instead of the single lane, 2 lanes ho ang hinihingi namin. Ngayon, partially approved, going to north. Yung north hindi masyadong importante sa amin kasi kung kargado na kami, pwede na kaming dahan-dahan lang, nakuha na namin yung kargamento. Mas urgent, mas importante sa amin yung going to north. Papasok sa MICP at saka South Harbor dahil may hinahabol kaming tabs booking kasi pag na-late nga kami may penalty. Dahil sa traffic from Malabon to going to South Harbor, it incurs 4 hours dahil sa traffic. Traversing Route 10.
At Ma'am Pinky, so are you aware of that?
Yeah, Chito and Rupert, I took note of that concern, and I promise to bring it up to management. What we can do about it. Yeah.
Kasi talagang marami ho kaming members na halos araw-araw na pinaltihan dahil hindi ko not arrive on time.
Kasi because of yung ano no, yung closure, and then yung season din talaga mas madaming ano ngayon, shipment.
Saka yung implementation ng single lane dyan sa Road 10. Kaya nga nag-request kami ng instead of single lane, bigyan ng truckers ng tow lane kasi 4 lanes naman ho yung Road 10 at maluwag masyado yung 3 lanes sa mga private vehicles. Yung truck ho namin, ang pila umaabot na sa Balintawak tsaka doon sa Porlink.
Ganon?
Oo.
Well,
Kasi pagka nag-overtake ho kami, sigurado huli. Ma-re-raker pa kami.
wow. So, ayan, at talagang hirap ng trabaho niyo, Sir Rupert. I mean, mabuti nga naalis na yung early arrival. Ma'am, I'm talking about tabs. I understood, I remember that before, naging issue yan sa mga importers about getting the scheduled appointments. Kasi yung iba daw, biglang, I don't know, have you had any complaints received about tabs of the port operators, Ma'am Pinky?
So far, walang documented naman na complaint sa amin, yung sa operations. Even sa SPO, although hindi naman siya covered ng SPO,
Yeah.
na document na complaint. If I may suggest, and siguro si Rupert, if he can formalize then, put into writing yung concern, and then I'm sure management will look into that. But I'll make a report after this this program and bring it up to management. But yun nga, Rupert can also formalize yung kanyang concerns sa PPA, address to our GM.
Yes, we will formalize.
So, do you have any suggestion or recommendation, Sir Rupert, on that regard? If only to address ng problem nyo, na penalize kayo at not because of your fault, but because of some other reasons. So, do you have any suggestions on that regard? Perhaps the PPA would be sensitive to your issues, to your recommendations on that. If only to guide them.
Sana
aside from the 2 lanes.
Yun nga po, mas importante po na mabigyan kami ng 2 lanes dyan sa Road 10 kasi talagang yun ang bottleneck dyan na kaya po nalilate ho kami dahil instead na going to north lang ang binibigay nila, dapat mas importante sa amin yung going to south dahil yun nga, nakabook ho kami, inahabol namin yung oras na makarating kami sa South Harbor at saka MICP, hindi na kami makarating ng on time because of the implementation of single lane. Kaya sana kung matulungan kami ng PPA na yung itong MTPB, Manila Parking Bureau, sila lang naman nagbibigay ng directive sa amin na that is a single lane. Although it is covered ng MMC Memorandum Circular number 2 na si Road 10 is subject to single lane. Kaya lang dahil that we are in the port zone at saka talagang diyan nagtambakan ho yung mga truck, dapat maintindihan naman nila na bigyan ng 2 lanes ho yung truck diyan sa Road 10.
Ma'am Pinky, ano ang composition, Ma'am Pinky, ng SPO? Is it an interagency? Is it composed of an interagency wherein the MMDA or the Traffic Bureau, local government units concerned are involved, Ma'am?
Ano siya? Chaired by the PPAGM.
Okay.
Vice chair namin is the administrator of Marina. Tapos members ay representatives from Coast Guard, DOTR, Marina, and PPA.
But definitely, going to the concern of Mr. Rupert, it involves traffic management and I guess it involves the local government unit on that regard. Siguro naman strategic alliances na lang siguro because, again, sinasabi nga ni Sir Rupert, Manila Traffic Bureau ang nagre-regulate, while the reality is talagang if only bibigyan sila ng 2 lanes, probably things could improve a lot.
Yeah.
So, ang ano ko nga lang, ano ang composition, I mean, would the MMDA local government unit for this particular concern be involved?
Sure, kasi yung Road 10 within the port zone yan, no?
Yes.
Within the port zone. So, yeah, I think we really have to coordinate with the LGU, MMDA. After this program, I'll also check with the port manager of PMO North ito, no?
Mhm.
North, yeah.
Paymon, yeah.
Yeah. Give us time to look into this concern, and we'll give feedback directly to you, to Rupert.
Yes, I'll give you also the copy of our request. We have already.
I would also like to add sa ano yung na-mention kanina, yung composition of SPO. DTI was also mentioned earlier, like all the concerns of Sir Rupert was being coursed through DTI and hindi na mention sa list of parties involved sa SPO. Baka kasama din sila
Hindi
dapat.
sila kasama. Hindi sila kasama kasi ang sinaman lang nila is yung agencies under DOTR. Yun ang naging
Okay.
composition.
I see. Okay.
So, but R10 being part of the port zone, so you still have jurisdiction over it, Ma'am Pinky, di ba?
Not really 100% sure, no, but I have to check with the port manager, the concerned port manager, and then yeah, I promise to give feedback to Rupert on his concern.
Yeah, Sir Rupert, so at least you now have first-hand information from Ma'am Pinky, who's in charge of operations of the PPA. Siguro you know where to channel your issues and concerns affecting your
Yes.
members, the trackers.
I'll also give Attorney Pinky a copy of our request.
Yeah, just address the letter to our GM, and then and copy furnish na lang yung sa operations. Copy
Okay,
furnish.
okay.
Thank you.
So now going back, Ma'am, dun sa complaints filed against shipping lines. So going back to what you said earlier, that is just formally information gathering lang ito in aid of legislation. So they really don't expect any legal resolution on that.
Not really kasi 'di ba yung it's also a venue where the parties can thresh out, 'di ba yung kasi like dati kasi like biglang i-bill sila ito demurrage, but they don't have the opportunity to, walang party na mag intervene na okay, tingnan nga natin, validate nga natin kung tama 'di ba yung ano mo, yung computation mo or yung side ng kabila. So this will help really yung tawag ito kasi the possibility of parties settling their concerns na ma-address naman. And then
arbitration.
Yung possibility of concerned agencies like maybe PPA or Marina na yung they can do any policy issue, so that they can issue na sanction ng kanilang mandate.
So, but anyway, ma'am, is there a matrix na shipping lines can collect? Is there a matrix, government-provided matrix on that regard? Kasi without it, so how can we determine if whether that charge is reasonable or excessive?
We don't have because there's no government agency regulating.
Yes, precisely.
So siguro the most we can use as reference would be yung rates being applied in similarly situated transactions, and because in a way yung the complainant kasi would kung rates lang siguro yung freight, I think that's something na talagang hindi naman kino-complain eh. I think that's not being complained of by the shippers. Most of the complaints are on other charges, diba? Like they're charging deposit fee.
The destination charges.
It's there. Yeah, it's there. Na in other jurisdiction hindi naman talaga nagkuano ng ganon.
Yeah.
Collect. So I think yung rates essentially talaga yun. Between the parties yan diba? Demand yung parang demand driven, or something na private to the part, commercial transaction yun talaga. Yung ano lang, the commercial transaction din in a sense, yung other charges, but it's something na pwede kasing, tawag nito, pwede siyang subject to negotiation yun eh. Diba? Kasi like, yung usual, I mean, kung nag-collect ng deposit fee, di ba pwedeng after na-return na yung container, dapat ibalik immediately, yung mga ganon. Kasi I think one of the is parang it took say maybe 1 year, di pa nababalik yung deposit fee. So, yung purpose ng deposit na.
Well, basically, ang nangyayari kasi sa industry natin, ma'am, ang mga importers, shippers are practically hostaged by some international shipping lines on that regard. Kumbaga kuan, pagdating sa paggamit sa container, you cannot use it without the deposit. Pagdating na refund, maghintay ka, bahala ka sa buhay mo. I mean, those things. Di ba? So, beholden ka. So, but again, ang problema nga is, since ang importers, traders are not really hurt by this. So, I guess really talagang, I really pray, I really hope that in the crafting of the new law about the shipping industry, consumers like me, like the other rest of the Filipinos, should have that right to file a complaint also against of course due to based on the merits of the case, of course. Kasi right now wala eh.
Ma'am Mary has joined from CPAC.
Ma'am Mary. Saan si Ma'am Mary? Hello, Ma'am Mary. Good. By the way, Ma'am Mary is a director of. Good morning, Ma'am Mary. Ma'am Mary Zapata is a director of the Confederation of Truckers Association of the Philippines, and she's also the president of the Aduana Business Club. Ma'am Mary, kumusta ka, Ma'am Mary? How are you? I know, Ma'am Mary has a lot of issues.
Pangit lang ang signal.
Yeah, but we can hear you, Ma'am Mary. The important thing is, maski your message or your concerns are raised with Attorney Pinky De Los Santos of PPA. Na-raise na ni Sir Rupert kanina yung concerns nyo, but ikaw, aside from being a tracker, talagang you also have your own loads, you have your clients. How are you being affected by these destination charges being collected by international?
I think she's trying to reconnect. Sorry, Sir Chito, Ma'am Mary is trying to reconnect. I think her initial connection is bad.
We alam mo, Ma'am Pinky, we will have a lot of interesting insights from Ma'am Mary. Kasi she is one of the leaders support, who's vocal, who's active about protecting the interest of port users.
Yeah, she has been present sa mga meetings ng DTI, I think, on this concern. Actually, di ba, there was already a draft joint administrative order addressing charges. But yun nga, because of yung issue on legal basis, that was not pursued.
Sino, ma'am, anong committee practically ang handling dito kung it's now under kinakraft na ito sa lower house? Sino ang ponente yung congressman dito, ma'am, that's crafting the law?
Teka, hanapin ko lang I have the materials kanina, hindi ko na makita kung saan.
Under ba ito kay Congressman Sarmiento, Committee on Transportation?
Hindi parang sa port users, parang consumers, I'll check.
Okay. So meron din kayong doon sa Senate?
May nag-champion din. Alam ko sa House pa lang, may nag-champion sa ano na to, sa concern.
Hello, Ma'am Mary, are you there?
Wala pa, hindi pa siya nakakonect ulit. I'll tell you when she's connected.
Wala pa, okay. So, again, kasi alam mo, problema natin dito sa atin, Ma'am Pinky, it's, this needs, this cannot be done through an executive order. It has to go through a legislative action.
Mary is back.
Crafting of the Ma'am Mary is back. Ma'am Mary, are you back? Hello. Hello, Ma'am Mary. Okay. Anyway, Ma'am Pinky, we can initially discuss kung so ang problema nga natin is that we need legislative action, and
Yeah.
why was it that it took so long for Congress, for our both houses of Congress to act on this for over 2 decades? It's only now under the Duterte administration that finally our legislators took cognizance of the issue. Have you had these concerns before, Ma'am Pinky, before the pandemic, even with the previous administrations?
Yung JAW kasi, yung I attended, I think 2 meetings. During sa time na to, the meetings were presided by SecMon already. So I think during this administration na.
Kasi ang sabi ko nga doon, if this were happening even before the 2014 congestion, even before that, meron ng nisingil. And things got worse during the 2014 port congestion where meron na mga destination charges, emergency handling costs, container imbalance, container deposit. Things got worse. Practically, not only things got out of hand. So, but finally, under the Duterte administration, they took cognizance of the issues and they created the Shippers Protection Office. I'm just wondering, what were the previous administrations doing about it?
Yeah. I recall there was an initiative to create parang to have to place yung jurisdiction over international shipping lines before the Shippers Bureau ba at the time?
Philippine Shippers Bureau at DTI.
Na-materialize. Na-materialize. This is the only parang tangible talaga measure na, diba, na talaga nagkaroon ng parang clear na okay, pag may complaints ka against shipping lines, you go to this parang forum or your venue.
But right now, considering that wala namang, there is just a private group. Ano ang role ng private group dito ng mga international shipping lines as far as policing their own ranks or mediation or whatever issues? What's the role of AISL?
No. Wala kasi silang, we cannot, although alam ko, a complaint was filed to include AISL, but they submitted they are not the party, kasi this is not, they are not shipping lines per se. So
yes, ma'am.
Obviously, we're talking about shipping lines. So the complaint really has to file directly against the shipping line, not the association. Kasi may legal personality talaga would be yung shipping company. The association, kasi they can always argue na yung rates, diba, or yung margins sa to are fixed independently by individual shipping lines.
But pagkagat yung mga rates na or mga charges, are they not being consulted with the PPA before they even start collecting it, ma'am? Or they just, after they decide on to charge this, to collect this, they just enforce it? Hindi ba ito kino-coordinate sa inyo, ma'am?
Kasi nga, these are, as I mentioned earlier, when you ship ka ng cargo mo from US, you have to, di ba may kontrata ka, di ba? Or depende kasi yung arrangement mo dun sa seller, di ba? So pag yung mga terms and conditions na yan, di ba? These are agreed upon with the parties. Yun nga lang, kung wala kang bargaining power, you're not able to get yung terms and conditions na, di ba, beneficial siguro to both parties, pero one-sided na. Usually, contract of adhesion siya, meaning these are prepared, di ba, from the shipping lines end, di ba? And you can only introduce, kumaga ito, baguhin natin, pwede habaan natin yung free time, yan.
Would not international trade practices be, in the meantime that we still don't have the laws, the matrix to the regulations to do that, would international trade practices be applicable on this?
Um, as of now, kasi it's something na I cannot find, unlike the di ba yung we're talking about just sa mga maritime o sa shipping na there are conventions na set yung IMO, di ba? So safety, dito kasi parang wala eh. Because essentially they're looking at it from the point of view na parang commercial transaction siya. But yun nga, it's the call then of the government na where the shipping lines are calling na okay, doing business in our ports, then we will impose regulations. We will regulate your some extent of activity. So it's a choice really of the yung state no or your country where these vessels are calling. Yung nga, as I mentioned earlier, it was India. They already came up with a law wherein they mandated or they directed na dapat yung ito lang exclusive, ito lang yung rates na to ang pwedeng i-collect mo, 'di ba? So no other charges should be collected. But it's something na we really don't know how shipping lines will take that or what will be the effect no doon sa shipping yung trade in that particular in India.
So can you give us, ma'am, a little bit of your insights on how the law regulating the shipping industry would come out as crafted? Just the insights of your basic understanding of how the law is being crafted.
Number one would be really to identify which government agency should have jurisdiction over them in terms of accrediting them. Maybe there's an accreditation requirement that the agency will apply. And if we're going to take a look at existing tariff rates, shipping rates now in the domestic shipping, it's all regulated. But Marina is given that mandate to intervene, diba? In case of excessive or unreasonable rates. Maybe that's the direction that will be pursued because we cannot regulate because the trend really is the regulation. So parang meron ka lang safeguards, meron lang intervention. Yeah, in case nga, yun nga, pag excessive na talaga, like yun nga, pag container, maybe assuming they will collect container deposit because kahit paano dapat protected din sila that the containers will be returned, but there should also be a provision na dapat the container deposit should be returned within so much number of days, maybe 3 days after the return, diba? Or cleaning fee collected provided that there's really the cleaning done, yung mga ganun siguro na mga provisions in the law.
Yes. Talking of container deposits, I've heard about things like shipping lines would require multiple guarantees, like they put up the container deposit, they're required to put up a guarantee, how do you call that, bond on that,
we are paying container deposit insurance premium for the containers. Every withdrawal of our containers, we paid 35 pesos for the equipment insurance premium. That insurance guarantee the return of empty containers.
That is in addition sa Rupert sa dinideposit yung cash sa shipping lines.
It's redundant na nga yung cash deposit kasi there is already an insurance to guarantee.
Yeah. Kasi dapat may option, either cash ba or bond, diba?
Yes. But unfortunately, the practice is it's not what's happening on ground sa Rupert. So, nagbabayad na kayo ng cash, kumukuha pa kayo ng guarantee ng bond. So, in addition, may undertaking pa kayo, you still sign an undertaking.
Yes, there is a container guarantee to be signed with the shipping lines that we will return within 72 hours. Otherwise, they will charge demurrage charges after 72 hours.
So in that case, Ma'am Pinky, is it not a manifestation of abuse or exploitation of helpless shippers? Because you control the game.
So that's why I think that's one area where, assuming that a government agency has been identified to have jurisdiction over the shipping lines, that's one area where government agency can come up with policies, diba? Yung to cover that, like yun nga, baka redundant na, overkill naman, diba? Because
Overkill talaga, as you say, overkill.
yeah, because the purpose really is to ensure na mabalik yung container, diba? So,
Yes.
if, lalo na with ease of doing business, diba? And yung facilitate yung trade, so dapat, it's an area na really na pwede talagang pwedeng i-regulate in a way ng government agency na yun i-create. No?
No, kasi particularly ma'am, kamukha yung, that's just one classic example nung redundant yung mga hinihinging assurance ng shipping lines. Pangalawa, yung congestion fee, even without the declaration of the port congestion, they're still collecting congestion fees. When in fact, under the guidelines, it's only the government that can declare whether there's congestion or not. So why should they be charging congestion fees when there is no declaration from the government on that regard?
And you will be paying demurrage and detention if you're able to retain
Yes. There's really a lot of tightening in our industry, shipping industry. And of course, but sabi ko nga, it's a good thing that the Duterte administration took cognizance of these issues.
Yeah, we took a big step already. So I think we're moving in the right direction. Hopefully,
yes, you are.
The administration, that legislation can be will materialize and will be passed.
Considering that the previous administrations slept on the issue, and it's only the Duterte administration that took cognizance of these issues, you're doing right, you're doing the right step, and kudos to our president, ma'am. Thank you, Mr. President,
and DOTR also, DOTR, and of course management of.
Secretary Arthur Tugade, he's a hardworking man, I know, and he knows how it is in the industry, the shipping, the port industry. Alam ko. Pero again, perhaps now I can say that consumers and shippers are not getting a cold shoulder from the government on their concerns, unlike before. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, Ma'am Pinky, for being there.
Yeah.
So, Ma'am Mary, are you there now? Oh, Sir Rupert.
She hasn't reconnected.
Sir Rupert, ano pa?
Yes.
Biro mo, maganda ito ngayon. At least you're getting the assurance from PPA that your issues, your concerns will be addressed. And you have the Ma'am Pinky taking note of these issues. Ano
Yes,
pa ang ano mo, Sir Rupert?
Yun lang po, as of this time, yun lang po ang concern, very urgent concern.
Okay. Well, again, you were saying before that, but it's not within, hindi ito yung your concern na modernization. It's not. We will have time for that, Sir Rupert. We will have time for that. Because I know we have a transportation secretary who's sensitive to issues, especially sa mga port stakeholders. So,
Okay.
Ma'am Pinky, so we're really thankful that this administration is taking a grasp on these issues. But again, ang akin lang prayer, ma'am, is sana isama kaming mga consumers.
Yes.
We are a party of interest to what's going on at the ports because we ultimately carry the burden of whatever unnecessary or additional charges these shipping lines are collecting. So ayun lang ang inaano ko, ma'am, because tapos what happens pala, ma'am? You explained earlier that even there's a good chance na may extend itong itong department order is in fact to a higher level when the law being crafted is passed. Perhaps ganun ba yun, ma'am?
Yes, it's possible as long as this pandemic, diba? Because this was crafted and then that hopefully before this is in place, because during the meeting at TTI, Secretary Tugade, this beyond pandemic. And hopefully, that bill will be taken up and approved, diba? So that if so that even if there's no SPO ready, that the concerns now will be addressed by that new law, no? Assuming
Mhm.
it will be passed.
Okay. Okay. So, ma'am, what are the significant changes mga halimbawa, volume of importation? I suppose the Philippine Ports Authority would have that record because of the pandemic. Ano ang volume of imports natin? Volume of trade bumababa or something? Or is it now picking up? Or is it not recovering since we are now on our recovery mode?
My decline, I just get the figure, but definitely there's a decrease of like I'll get the exact ano natin ha, yung cargos for a while. Sure. There is, in terms of saglit lang ha. In terms of foreign wait, sorry, I'm trying to get yung exact figures. Just ano lang ito, we're talking about Manila South Harbor and MICT figures.
Yes, ma'am.
There is a decline. Oh, wait. Sorry.
Hello, ma'am.
Miss Shoni maybe can help me on the actual figures. I'm looking at my. Sorry about
Okay.
this.
Okay, no problem. Take your time.
Parang during the early part of the pandemic, parang kahit pa paano yung ating revenue was down by around 70%.
Mhm.
Pero tuloy-tuloy siya na tumataas naman because na-stabilize namin yung mga process.
Yeah.
Oo. So, parang nananarrow yung gap ng aming mga ng expected target namin ng revenue for the year kasi nakakatulong yung mga processes na ini-implement ng port.
Ma'am, how about yung ano natin? Are we still getting importations for the face mask, yung mga for the frontliners? What system did the PPA apply para ma-expedite ang mga release nito?
Yeah, Chito, just to clarify ha, siguro parang as of November, parang 19% down ang aming net income. As of record yan. So marami na implement mga safety protocols ang PPA that na nakatulong kasi hindi naman nag-stop ang operation. The ports remained open, especially for the cargos. Kasi we saw to it that the cargos passed on our seaports unhampered kasi kailangan yan. Mga essentials yan during these times. So, hindi kami nagsara. Hindi nagsara ang mga ports.
Yeah.
But syempre, kahit papano may effect sa aming operation. So, kahit papano nag-down kami as expected.
Yeah, agree.
So you have sort of an agreement with Bureau of Customs, PPA, and whatever para ma-facilitate itong mga expeditious release of mga essentials for the pandemic.
Ever since kasi priority talaga yung essential goods at saka yung mga medical supplies. from the very start, priority talaga to ensure, di ba, yung continuous yung supply ng medical at saka mga food products. Di ba yung JAW, in-issue yung JAW noong April. Yeah.
Yung joint interest na unhampered dapat.
Yeah.
Hello?
Yeah. Sorry, yeah. So, Chito, did Shoni answer your question? Or, di ko
Yung
Oo.
regulations
Medyo ang signal natin, ma'am, medyo...
Chito. Chito, hello. Hello, Chito.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. I can hear you.
Yeah.
Yes.
Actually, all the processes naman na aming pinatupad dito sa ports are all swak, no? Nakaswak siya or correspondent siya dun sa provisions na nilalaman ng JAW. Anong JAW number 1, 2020. Yeah. No? So, parang always it's an interagency decision kasi all our processes are
Okay, yeah.
nakabase siya sa nilalabas ng interagency task force. Yeah.
So streamlined na siya
Yeah,
to facilitate
yes.
expeditious relief.
I mean, kumbaga,
Okay.
consistent siya. Iisa lang yung sinusundan natin na ipapalabas ng mga proseso.
So are we still getting the bulk of importations sa mga essentials ng pandemic? Or is there's been a decline on the importations of that?
Kasi makikita mo yan sa income sa aming sa result ng aming processes. So we're down na by 19%. So hindi siya masyadong hindi siya ganon hindi ganon kalaki yung epekto kasi nga hindi naman talaga tumigil yung pagdating ng mga cargos natin kasi open naman yung ating mga ports.
Okay. So talagang I mean, alam mo kasi there a lot of things happened because of the pandemic. There's been changes in our lives under the new normal. So basically, maganda nga ito at nung we decided to discuss the issue on shipping industry, sabi ko nga, this is a very crucial topic because we are an import-dependent country. About 80% of our consumer goods and the raw materials that churn in the factory are mostly also imported. So whatever is happening at the ports would ultimately be carried by the consumers. So again, ma'am, talagang very thankful kami. So Sir Rupert, do you have any other concern with Ma'am Pinky and PPA, Sir Rupert?
So ngayon po wala na, but we will forward our complaint to his office through the GM ng PPA, then copy furnished po si Attorney Pinky.
So you have that specific, Sir Rupert, yung sinasabi mo na yung charges na beyond 8 days, which is actually the fault of the shipping company and the assigned depository ng containers nyo.
Yes, I have one case which I personally experienced. So I have to file this maybe tomorrow.
Okay.
Chito, if I may share,
Yes,
because very relevant ito sa mga trackers, no? Yung as part of the measures being adopted by management to ensure yung ease of doing business support. The board has approved yung amendment natin, yung revised guidelines sa issuance ng PTO. So valid siya for 3 years. So no need na for trackers to apply for that every year.
Okay.
So for 3 years, yung validity niya, assuming nag-apply ka June of 2021, yung validity niya to June 2024. Unlike hindi na siya para masulit mo talaga yung validity niya. So 3 years. And then, no need to submit yung mga applications. You just have to online parang pag may accreditation ka, yun na yun ang i-ano ng PPA. Submit yung application form online
Oh,
and that's it.
okay.
So ano la, kumbaga talagang very streamlined na talaga yung requirements. It would really help for them not to going back every year to the port for renewal.
So, ma'am, can you enlighten the transacting public ng PPA? What would they expect right now under the new normal? Ano ba ang mga operational changes sa PPA that they expect considering the limitations, the restrictions that we have under the new normal?
In terms of requirements, we have streamlined, and yun nga, because this pandemic kasi pushed us to digitalize, diba? To yung electronic na mga processing. So we make it mandatory na yung processing online ng mga applications, less contact dapat with clients. So yung payment online, mga applications online. We will very strict in the implementation of health protocols. At the present, we're implementing yung no face mask, no face shield, no entry. Yun nga, yung isa, yung ang major improvement namin, yung duration ng PTO namin valid na siya for 3 years, same with accreditation. So no need for them to go to the port to renew every year. Yun nga, yung they should avail yung mga payments online. That are in place. So they expect yung digitalization and support. We're pushing we're pushing that. Management is very bullish about yung electronic at saka yung digitalization.
So how much percent ang workforce po ng PPA are now working from home on that regard?
At present, our rules require that not more than 50% should report to the office. So dapat less than 50%, because you have to consider din yung health, 'di ba? Yung para may may reserve, 'di ba? In case na
yes.
Assuming may nag-positive sa batch na to, then another group will take over, will report also. And then because it's really necessary na merong yung work from home arrangement, kasi hindi naman tayo, di ba, we're not prepared really for yung setup natin, hindi talaga designed for that. So may mga measures na adapt yung management to ensure na yung continuity ng work, yung mga transactions sa PPA tuloy-tuloy pa rin despite yung existing working arrangement natin.
Okay. So all these are without prejudice to the delivery of services by PPA, of course.
Yes, yeah. Always the major consideration, diba? And we really have to keep the ports open and operational all the time.
Okay, good. At least at least you're concerned about your stakeholders, your clients, for their safety. Thank you so much, ma'am, for that. And
yes, Chito, I have the concern, Chito.
Sige, Sir Rupert.
We are talking of streamlining. Is it possible that permit to operate South Harbor, MICP, and North Harbor, it should be one? Kasi sa ngayon, every port nagre-require doon ng permit to operate. Kung po pwedeng isa na lang permit to operate, yung South Harbor, MICP, at saka North Harbor. Kasi the same naman yun, PPA rin ang nag-i-issue ng permit to operate.
Yes, Rupert, Chito, that concern has already been elevated to management by the port manager, manager Jofort Portajada. So we're looking at that and we'll come up with a resolution on that concern soon. Within the week.
Yes.
Oh, kita mo. Sir Rupert, time is specific, within a week.
So at least mag-isa na lang po kasi we are talking of streamlining, malaking bago po sa amin yun.
Oh yeah, of course. And we're glad that GM Santiago is a guy who's very particular about streamlining without prejudice to delivery of service, efficient delivery of service.
Okay, thank you very much.
Sige, ano pa po, Sir Rupert, habang nandito
yun pong mga case namin, yung tungkol sa pinurward namin sa DTI, we will copy furnished ho si Attorney Pinky na yung tungkol dun sa mga diversion ng containers because shipping lines is claiming to our members millions with regards to the demurrage charges of the container. Yung mga nan-divert na sa railways dati last 3 years ago, hanggang ngayon hindi pa na-resolve yung singilan.
Rupert, I think na-refer na sa amin yan. It was
Yes, Attorney.
is here. Na-forward na yan sa amin ng DTI. So, ang requirement lang namin is dapat may special power of attorney yung trackers from the shippers, diba?
From
to
the
file
shippers, yes.
oo.
Yes, we will secure.
So, Ma'am Pinky, what do you suggest the fastest coordination that you can have with Sir Rupert? Would it be okay with you if Sir Rupert would be able to coordinate with you directly on this regard, ma'am?
Yes. I can give my number, no, after this
Yes.
program.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Thank you so much, ma'am. Thank you so much. You've been really most helpful to this. So I guess we don't have really much time, and it's almost lunchtime. So any other concerns, Sir Rupert, before we wind up this very enlightening edition?
So far yun lang po, yun lang ang mga urgent concern ho namin sa ngayon.
Hello. Hello.
Yes, Chito, we can hear you.
Yeah. Okay, Ma'am Pinky. So perhaps you can make your closing statement on this regard, and including Sir Rupert before we wind up this event, because this is really a very enlightening edition of Talakayan, ma'am.
Again, I think thank you, Chito, for affording PPA the opportunity to make clarification on certain issues, especially on the SPO. Just want to give the assurance that PPA management, headed by our GMJ Santiago, our Secretary of the Department of Transportation, SecHart, and the government in general are addressing the concerns of the stakeholders of the port industry and the maritime industry, and continue to do our best to deliver efficient and effective services, and we will continue to hear your concerns and address them. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Ma'am Pinky. I pray that this is not the first and the last time that we will meet in our future Talakayans. When we talk again about the shipping industry, we hope to see you once again. So, Sir Rupert, ano masasabi mo, Sir Rupert, for your closing statement for this edition of Talakayan?
Yes, thank you very much for a very fruitful talakayan. Marami po kaming nakukuhang beneficial to the trackers industry.
At remember, Sir Rupert, sinabi ni Ma'am Pinky that you can coordinate with her directly on this regard on your concerns, and she'll give you her contact number on that regard. Ma'am Shoni, would you like to say anything?
No more. That's enough. Thank you, Chito. Thank you for inviting us.
Yeah. Anyway, again, as we wind up another enlightening edition of Talakayan, as I have said, we would like to make this platform for objective and constructive discussions. As you can see it, this obviously is one classic example of an objective and constructive discussion with the government assuring its stakeholders, the public, that they're doing each part and opening its arms or heart for their concerns. Again, thank you to the Duterte administration for taking cognizance of the concerns of port users and the shippers. And most of all, thank you, everyone, for a very enlightening day. Thank you so much. Enjoy your lunch. And most of all, again, stay safe because mahirap ang kalaban po natin ngayon. Hindi natin nakikita at walang exception nito. Mayaman, matanda, kawawan. Pag sinabi matanda, tinatamaan yata ako. Anyway, so tayo si Rupert, but it's better to stay safe. Avoid crowds. Perhaps this is the most challenging Christmas that we will have, but the spirit of Christmas is not within the parties, it is within our hearts, because that is where we can find, it is in this narrow road, lonely road to our hearts, wherein we can find the real meaning of Christmas. Again, thank you so much. Good day.
Thank you po.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you very
you.
much.